You used to enjoy being with people, so why don't you? You're not alone if that inquiry made you feel anything. Many people in their 60s, 70s, and even 80s discover that they are withdrawing from the social networks they formerly held dear. Not that they no longer give a damn. They haven't grown aloof or resentful. Something has altered on the inside. And intelligence, not weakness, is usually the source of that shift. Even though you used to be the life of the party, there are 6 compelling reasons why you could be avoiding people these days. These observations are not superficial. Each one captures a genuine experience that many older individuals have, even if they don't discuss it often. You might be surprised by some of the reasons. Others may strike near home. One thing is clear, though. After seeing this movie, you will have a better understanding of who you are, and may even be able to forgive yourself a bit more for requiring space. You'll discover that it's okay to distance yourself from some people if you read through to the finish. Indeed, it may be among the most prudent and healthful things you have ever done for yourself. Let's get started. First, the burden of previous betrayals. We accumulate more than simply memories throughout time. We gather bruises. Some are simple to forget. A miscommunication here, a quarrel there. Others, however, leave more profound scars, rejections, betrayals, and instances in which we let our hearts open only to have them rejected or abused. And the faint echo of those scars becomes more apparent as we age. We stop giving so freely because we've come to realize that not everyone deserves a front row seat in our life. Not because we're furious. Consider 81-year-old Eleanor, who used to throw dinner parties every weekend. She cherished music, laughter, and entertaining guests in her home. However, things altered with time. Friends moved away. Confidentiality was breached. When her spouse died, another vanished. There was more than one major heartbreak. It was the slow trickle of minor setbacks. These days, she prefers isolation over company, not because she despises others, but rather because she values tranquility over appearances. As people age, they develop a protective shell that is shaped by their experiences. Although it frequently feels essential, it doesn't always feel nice, and you begin to protect your time, your heart, and your trust once you've lived long enough to witness how easily people can change or depart. Being cold isn't the point. It's about exercising caution. Elderly people have frequently given generously, loved sincerely, and experienced unexpected disappointment. You learn to pause, assess, and withdraw when something doesn't feel genuine or safe from that repeating loop. After someone leaves the room, you begin to focus on how they make you feel rather than what they say. When the expense of connection starts to outweigh the benefit, psychologists refer to this as relational weariness. And people who have survived emotional storms are particularly likely to experience it. That is not a source of shame. It just indicates that you have survived. You have witnessed both the good and the horrible that individuals are capable of. And it's not resentment that makes you choose distance today. It's sagacity. It's the understanding that your heart is something sacred at this point in your life. Furthermore, not everyone is now deserving of access to it. The second is the desire for calm over idle chatter. When you were younger, you could have put up with idle chatter, conversations that were merely pleasantries, gossip, or noise-making. However, that tolerance begins to wane with age. You're not antisocial exactly. It's that you've started to realize how important peace is. It no longer feels hollow to be silent. It feels filling. And it's more difficult to give up that kind of inner peace for fleeting companionship once you've discovered it. Consider Harold, a 76-year-old former salesperson. He was gregarious, personable, and skilled at striking up a conversation with everyone. He now stays away from gatherings that call for constant mixing nevertheless. He no longer goes to big family gatherings unless he is really feeling well. The only response he gives when asked why is, "I'm tired of talking just to talk." Isolation is not what he wants. It's for purpose, sincerity, and private moments that don't call for acting. Our emotional vitality increases in value with age. Effort to impress wanes. We no longer feel the need to prove ourselves. Instead, the need for authenticity emerges. We like interactions that are authentic rather than staged. And many would prefer to sit at home with a book and a cup of tea rather than clog the room with noise that makes them feel even more alone than they were before they came. Being distant isn't the point here. Being selective is key. Selecting your surroundings and the people you spend them with has a certain dignity. You've earned the right to prioritize tranquility, to save your energy, and to politely turn down an invitation. Avoidance is not what that is. Maturity is that. The more we embrace this type of discernment, the more we understand that being wealthy doesn't require a large following. Hours of forced connection might sometimes be replaced by a single meaningful chat or even a peaceful evening spent by yourself. Know this, therefore, if you've been withdrawing lately, avoiding the teasing, avoiding the boisterous events, you're not getting chilly. You're starting to make sense. Be honest about what makes you feel good. Clearly state what exhausts you. And one of the best things about becoming older is that clarity. Please leave a number 2 comment below to let me know whether you're still viewing this video and finding these ideas helpful. To ensure you don't miss any videos, I advise you to subscribe and turn on the bell if you haven't already. We can keep producing high-quality content to educate and uplift you thanks to your support. All right, let's proceed. Third, the perception that others no longer comprehend you. There comes a time in life when you glance around and see that you and the world have changed. It's a separate slang. They have various values. It is almost dizzying how quickly everything is moving, including expectations, talks, and even relationships. You may begin to feel unheard, invisible, or just out of place in the midst of all that upheaval. People no longer take the effort to comprehend your point of view, not because you've done something wrong. Consider Marie, a retired teacher who is 79 years old. She used to enjoy spending time with her younger cousins and telling them about her life, including how she ran a household, raised 5 children, worked a full-time job, and still found time to volunteer. However, she claims that they seldom ever ask questions these days. They examine their phones and give her a courteous nod when she talks. It's not malevolent, it's simply a disconnect. And that distance starts to feel like a canyon over time. This is among the more subdued explanations for why people begin to distance themselves. Not that they don't give a damn, it's that it becomes tiresome to be in situations where you're not really heard. You gradually start to pick your own business, not because it's superior, but rather because it's safer. You are aware of your depth of emotion, life experience, and knowledge. It's simpler to quit offering it, though, when people stop seeing it. Being alone isn't the cause of this type of loneliness. It has to do with being misinterpreted. Even when there are people all around you, you may feel totally invisible. They shift the topic after you express an idea. They accuse you of being theatrical when you voice concerns. You start to think that perhaps quiet is easier after experiencing enough of these situations. When your feelings are gently reduced or disregarded, psychologists refer to this as emotional invalidation. Furthermore, since it doesn't occur through open rejection, it impacts a greater number of older persons than we discuss. Little moments add up over time to make it happen. The fact is, though, that your opinions still count. Your voice is still powerful. Furthermore, you are still valuable even if people don't listen to you. It just indicates that some talks are out of your league. And that's all right. Forcing your way into their world isn't always the answer. The goal is to locate people or locations where you don't need to explain yourself a lot, where your presence is sufficient and where someone pays attention rather than merely waiting for your turn to talk. And it's normal to withdraw when those people are scarce, both to safeguard your energy and to feel more at ease in your own company, because you are completely visible by yourself in that area, and you should never feel guilty about that. Fear of becoming a burden is number 4. There is a silent anxiety that creeps in as we age, a fear of burdening the people we care about, rather than of sickness or even death. It's an unavoidable fear that's difficult to identify. Someone's busy day shouldn't be disturbed. Even when you need help, you don't want to ask for it. You remain silent as a result. You remain at home. You remain aloof. It has nothing to do with pride. It has to do with love. It has to do with honor. The goal is to avoid making your presence seem like a burden, not because you don't want to go, but because you don't want someone to feel compelled to come get you. You begin to decline invites. You are reluctant to confide in them, not because you don't trust them, but rather because you don't want to burden them. Your universe, therefore, starts to subtly get smaller. Consider the 84-year-old widower Frank, who used to visit his daughter's family on the weekends. He found himself turning down their invites more frequently as his mobility deteriorated. When asked why, he replied, "I don't want them rearranging their lives around me. They've got kids, jobs. I'll just slow them down." And although he was never made to feel uncomfortable by his family, his need for connection was overshadowed by his fear of being an issue. The paradox that many older folks encounter is that the more you depend on other people, the less you want to be dependent on them. You've spent your entire life being strong, the caregiver, and the person that people rely on, so the more you value connections, the more you're reluctant to ask for help. Asking for assistance now feels strange, sometimes even embarrassing. This dread stems from a very human need to be loved, not out of obligation, but out of joy. And you start to back off when you think your presence could be bothering someone. You would prefer be by yourself than feel obligated. The reality is that those who care about you want to be there for you. They might not say it correctly every time. They might not execute it flawlessly every time. However, your independence does not determine your value. Your presence serves as a barometer. Furthermore, your requirements won't ever be a burden if those around you genuinely care. They will be a luxury. Nevertheless, the fear persists and influences behavior. When you want to talk, you don't say anything. When you wish to visit, you remain in one place. When you wish to join, you remain behind. And eventually, it's easier to avoid people than to take the chance of experiencing the discomfort of needing them. Please leave a number 4 comment below to let me know if you're still watching this video and finding these ideas helpful. To ensure you don't miss any videos, I advise you to subscribe and turn on the bell if you haven't already. We can keep producing high-quality content to educate and uplift you thanks to your support. All right, let's proceed. 5th, the peaceful termination of long-standing relationships. There are relationships that don't terminate in arguments or goodbyes. They just fade. Individuals develop in many ways. Priorities change. You are slowly and almost imperceptibly torn apart by life. You don't intend to stray. You simply do. You wake up one day and discover that the folks who used to occupy your schedule are no longer involved in your daily activities. Not all of it is depressing. There are moments when it is quiet. Sometimes, though, it left a sort of ache, like if you've outgrown something you once loved. You ponder where it all gone as you recall the phone conversations, lunches, and shared giggles. Have they changed? Did you? Perhaps both. Think about Ruth, a 73-year-old woman who used to go on weekly walks with her high school best friend. These walks eventually changed to monthly, then annual, and finally non-existent. There was only a silent recognition that they had little left to say. No argument, no falling out. Their lives had become different rhythms, different interests. Ruth responded, "We still care about each other, but I think we said all we needed to say." People don't know how prevalent this situation is. When shared seasons, raising children, working together, or living close by, end, relationships based on those seasons frequently fail. Additionally, as you age, you can discover that the people around you no longer reflect who you are becoming into. Not a failure, that is. It's a type of development. You will inevitably become more picky about who you spend your time and energy with once you begin to prioritize it. You're straightforward about what you require, not because you're superior to them. Additionally, sometimes you just need room. Room to be, to think, to contemplate. Once energizing old buddies may suddenly feel exhausting. Once natural conversations may suddenly seem forced. And you choose distance instead of pushing it, not with malice, but out of respect for yourself. It's a common belief that growing older means losing people. However, they don't often mention that you can choose to let go. Since you now know that being near someone yet disconnected might be even more isolating than being by yourself. Therefore, it's not always about avoiding other people when you distance yourself from select ones. It's about accepting the changes that have occurred within you. You've changed. And instead of apologizing, we should embrace that. 6. the satisfaction of having your own business. You eventually stop looking for crowds and begin to enjoy your alone time. Not because you're lonely or resentful, but because you've realized something that far too many people never realize. You're enough with your own company. When you recognize that you don't need to amuse others, explain yourself, or pretend to be someone you're not, a certain calm descends upon you. You may have been surrounded by people for years due to duties, family, and employment, and it's possible that over those years, you hardly ever had time to simply be, to sit quietly and listen to your thoughts without being interrupted. And it becomes sacred once you experience that freedom for the first time, something to defend, not something to flee from. Consider 82-year-old Gerald, who used to thrive on the attention he received from others. His voice was the loudest in the room, and his residence served as the meeting place. But he no longer enjoys throwing parties as much as he used to enjoy observing birds from his porch. "I've got enough stories in my head to keep me company for days," he responds with a smile when asked if he ever feels lonely. He has found contentment instead of loneliness. Those around you are frequently perplexed by this change. They may be concerned. They may believe you're withdrawing because you're depressed. Actually, though, you're simply tuned into something more profound, a fuller yet quieter rhythm, a more full but less crowded life. You don't feel the need to answer every question, justify every decision, or be available to everyone at all times. It's not avoidance either, it's sagacity. This type of inner clarity only occurs after years of making noise, of giving, of pushing oneself for the benefit of others. When selected, solitude becomes a haven. It is a place of healing, introspection, and breathing room for your authentic self. Additionally, as you age, you come to understand that some of your greatest moments are spent alone. At your own pace, you stroll. Think for yourself. Do as you like, and you feel free for the first time in a long time. You finally asserted your place in the world, not because it has changed. Please leave a number 6 comment below to let me know if you're still watching this video and finding these ideas helpful. To ensure you don't miss any videos, I advise you to subscribe and turn on the bell if you haven't already. We can keep producing high-quality content to educate and uplift you thanks to your support. All right, let's proceed. Concluding remarks. What then caught your attention the most today? Of these 6 explanations, which one gave you the impression that it was written with your life in mind? Perhaps it was the silent demise of long-standing relationships. Or maybe it was the knowledge that you no longer have to justify your need for tranquility. I hope it served as a reminder that you are not broken, no matter what it was. You're evolving. Avoiding people does not indicate antisociality or bitterness. It could indicate that you're smarter. You've experienced decades of life, and those years have given you the right to be picky, to keep your peace, to respect your own speed, and to derive significance from your own peaceful understanding of yourself rather than from the clamor of others. Solemnity has its dignity. Boundaries have their own power. Furthermore, there is true independence in not having to constantly socialize or show your value by being popular. Consider the reasons behind your recent social disengagement. It's possible that you've been looking for alignment rather than absence. And let this film serve as a reminder that you are noticed, even when you are motionless. You are heard even when you remain silent. You are never really alone, even when you are by yourself. Because there are innumerable people who are exactly like you, walking the same journey with bravery, elegance, and a greater awareness of what really counts. We appreciate you being here with us today. We would be delighted to hear from you. Tell us about one thing you learned today and how you intend to apply it in your life in the comments section below. We value your opinions, so please feel free to express them. We are greatly inspired and encouraged by reading your remarks. Please like, subscribe, and share this video if you found it entertaining and useful. We can keep producing high-quality content to educate and uplift you thanks to your support. We appreciate your time and hope to see you in the upcoming video.